If you're here right now, it probably means you've felt it, that deep, quiet ache, that pain. The kind that shows up in the silence after someone walks away. That moment where your chest tightens and your mind races, wondering, should I reach out? Should I say something? Or should I just disappear? But here's the truth, sometimes saying nothing says everything. Sometimes it's not your words she hears. It's your absence. It's your stillness. It's the space you leave behind when you stop explaining, stop proving, stop chasing. In this video, I'll show how a woman really feels when she sees that you've moved on. And trust me, it hits harder than you expected. For you, this isn't about pretending to move on. It's not about staged photos or cryptic captions to spark her curiosity. This is about truly letting go. About reclaiming your peace, your power, your worth, without asking for permission. If you're on a path where self-respect matters more than validation, if you've chosen clarity over confusion, and healing over holding on, then you're in the right place. If anything in this message hits home, support this channel. Like and subscribe. Not just for the algorithm, but so we can reach more men who need to hear this. Men who've been silent for too long, waiting to be reminded that their silence holds weight. Let's dive in. The shift she never prepared for. It starts quietly. No drama, no headlines. Just a soft, almost unnoticeable change. A flicker in the background. A stillness in the places where you used to exist. She can't quite put her finger on it, but something feels off. She uploads a photo, maybe a reel, maybe a quote meant to catch your eye. It's the kind of thing that used to spark a reaction. Like a quick message, a subtle reminder that you were still there, still orbiting her life even from afar. But this time, silence. She checks again, nothing, no ping, no emoji, no thoughtful reply. Just a blank space where your presence used to sit. And at first she explains it away. Maybe you're busy. Maybe your phone's been off. Maybe you're in one of those moods where you go dark for a while. That's what she tells herself. But that explanation? It doesn't stick. Because as the days roll on, the quiet grows heavier. And suddenly it doesn't feel like space. It feels like absence. A void she didn't see coming. A hole she never thought you'd leave unfilled. She hasn't realized yet, this isn't a break. This isn't you stepping back to see if she'll chase. This isn't some calculated silence designed to make her miss you. This is the end of your emotional participation. You didn't slam the door behind you. You didn't leave breadcrumbs to be followed. You didn't even try to prove your worth one last time. You just let go gracefully. You chose peace over performance. You stopped feeding a connection that no longer fed you back. And now she feels it, not just the absence of your presence but the loss of your attention. Your warmth. Your quiet devotion. That realization? It doesn't come with fireworks. It arrives like a chill she can't shake. Because deep down she knows. You're not just silent. You're gone. You were always available. Always the one to explain, to reach out, to open your heart even when it hurt. You kept showing up. Kept trying to make her understand your love, your intentions, your truth. Even when things got messy, you stayed. You answered every message, responded to every shift in energy, tried to fix what was breaking. Sometimes even at the cost of breaking yourself. But this time, it's different. This time you didn't just go quiet. You disconnected. And real detachment, it isn't loud. It isn't cruel. It doesn't come with blocked numbers or sharp words. It's still, it's clean, it's peaceful. It doesn't seek to prove a point or win a battle. It simply lets go. She feels it, slowly, subtly, not because of what you say but because of what you no longer do. You're not checking in anymore. You're not lingering in her orbit. You're not composing messages in your mind that you never sent. That pull she once felt from you, it's gone. You've brought your energy back home. You're no longer casting it outward in hopes that she might finally understand or reciprocate. You've stopped trying to be heard and instead you've started listening to yourself. That shift, that quiet return to self, it echoes louder than any argument ever could. And that's what unsettles her. Not because you left in anger. Not because you made a scene. But because this time, you didn't. You exited her emotional world without drama, without begging to be seen, without needing to be right. You simply stopped holding the door open. She won't say it. Maybe she doesn't even fully understand it yet. But deep down, something inside her starts to unravel. Because when a man detaches not to manipulate, not to punish, but to heal, that's when the game changes. For the first time she can't feel your reach. She can't sense your energy waiting in the wings. And that silence? It's not passive. It's not weak. It's power, pure, grounded power. This isn't a tactic. It's not reverse psychology. This is you choosing yourself. Not to make her chase you. Not to stir regret. But because you've finally realized you don't need her validation to feel whole. You're not trying to spark curiosity. You're not playing cold to spark a reaction. You're just done. And not because you gave up on love, but because you finally found the kind of peace that doesn't depend on someone else's presence to exist. That's not silence. That's liberation. She used to think you'd always be there. That no matter how far she pushed, how long she went quiet, how many times she played hot and cold, you'd remain. Steady, waiting and hoping. She believed you'd orbit her forever, like some constant she could count on, even while keeping you at arm's length. And maybe for a while she was right. Maybe you were that man, clinging to the hope that if you loved harder, proved more, stayed patient enough, she'd finally see your worth. You were willing to shrink just to fit inside the space she left for you. But that version of you doesn't exist anymore. Something shifted. Not because of a dramatic moment, not because of a final straw, but in the quiet. In that deep, personal silence where you finally saw yourself again. You realized peace wasn't something she could offer. And more importantly, it was never hers to take. Now your silence isn't a reaction. It's not performative. It's not designed to spark curiosity or guilt. It's real, grounded, rooted in something solid, something unshakable. You're no longer moved by her attention-seeking posts. Her name slipping into a conversation doesn't make your stomach drop. Old photos don't carry the weight they used to. Not because you stopped feeling, but because you started healing. You've begun showing up for yourself in the ways you used to beg her to. And that shift didn't happen overnight. It came through long, lonely nights. Through confronting wounds you used to ignore. Through finally facing the ache of being overlooked, without trying to make it someone else's responsibility. Now there's no need for closure. No internal debates with memories. No fantasy conversations playing out in your mind. You've stopped waiting for a return. Because you've already come home to yourself. And she doesn't know what to do with that. She might think you're playing some calculated game. That your silence is a move in some emotional strategy. But she's wrong. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not trying to win. You've simply walked away from the table. Not out of bitterness. Not out of defeat. But because you finally understood the difference between being wanted and being respected. And that's what stuns her most. Not your distance. Not your silence. But the quiet, undeniable truth that this time it's not temporary. She didn't expect this kind of silence. Not from you. Not after everything. She always believed you'd be there, lingering, waiting, watching. That no matter how many times she ignored your texts or played with your emotions, you'd still orbit her world, ready to respond the moment she reached out. You were predictable, dependable. A constant presence she could control with minimal effort. And maybe once that was true. Maybe you did hold on a little too long. Maybe you bent in ways you shouldn't have, hoping she'd finally see your worth. But not anymore. Because something changed. You didn't just disappear. You disconnected. Not out of anger. Not to prove a point. But because you found something she never expected you to discover without her. Peace. Real, grounded peace. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. You didn't post to prove how happy you are. You didn't flirt to get her attention. You didn't try to make her jealous. You went silent, not because you were hurting but because you were healing. And you didn't need applause for that. You needed solitude. You needed space. And in that space you found you. What's throwing her off isn't that you're gone. It's that you didn't make a scene. It's that you walked away so quietly, so completely without asking her to notice. She can't read you like she used to. The buttons she used to push don't work anymore. The late-night messages, the half-hearted apologies, the suggestive posts, they used to spark something in you. Now, nothing. She's realizing the remote control she once had over your emotions doesn't exist anymore. The game has ended, and you're not even playing. That realization doesn't land all at once. It creeps in slowly. Like cold air through a window left slightly open. She starts to notice, your energy isn't where it used to be. You're not watching. You're not reacting. You're not available. And it hits her, in the quiet, that she no longer has the power to influence your mood, your mind, or your presence. Because for the first time, you've poured all of that energy into yourself. You've stopped trying to be enough for someone who couldn't see you. And now, that silence she used to take for granted feels different. It's no longer a pause between her games. It's the full stop. It's the ending she never saw coming. And what rattles her the most isn't that you're quiet, it's that you're free. And that freedom isn't temporary. You gave so much of yourself for so long that she never imagined a version of you that didn't need her. In her mind, your love was tied to her presence, constant, loyal, and always available. But now that love lives without her and she's on the outside looking in. So when she reaches out, through a simple hey, a soft apology, or a random question, she expects the familiar you. The one who used to answer fast. The one who held on to her words like they mattered more than your own. But instead she finds something else. Calm, steady, unbothered. You don't jump. You don't chase. You don't respond like she's still your center. And that's what stuns her. It's not rejection she feels, it's irrelevance. She was once the storm that moved your heart. Now she feels like a footnote in a story that's moved on without her. That shift makes her question everything. Not just what changed, but who you've become. Because this version of you, the one who doesn't need her approval, who stays grounded in silence, is unfamiliar. She can't pull your strings. She can't shake your peace. And in that, you've done the rarest thing, you took your power back. Not through force, but through stillness. She won't admit it, but she's watching, quietly. When no one's around, she checks in, not too often but enough. Enough to notice your energy's different. Enough to feel something tighten in her chest when she sees you smile in a moment she's no longer part of. When she reads a caption that feels lighter, more grounded, she scrolls past like it doesn't matter. She acts unbothered, like it's just another post. But deep down something shifts. There's a quiet realization creeping in. This isn't the version of you she left behind. What unsettles her isn't what you're posting. It's what you're not. No sad quotes. No veiled messages. No songs soaked in heartbreak. You're not throwing digital punches or trying to make her feel anything at all. You're just living, and doing it without needing her eyes on you. That's what really makes her pause. Because the man she knew would have tried to be noticed. Would have found a way to stir her curiosity even in silence. But this new you? You're not performing anymore. You're not reacting. You're not trying to prove that you've moved on. You're just at peace. And that quiet peace speaks louder than anything else could. She hears things too. Through mutual friends. About your new habits, your discipline, your focus. The gym. The new work you're committed to. The way people talk about you now. Calm, solid, growing. There's respect in their tone. Maybe even surprise. Because for the first time, you're not shaped by the pain she left behind. You're shaped by what you're building now. And that confuses her. Not because she wants you back, necessarily. But because she never thought she'd become irrelevant to your story, not replaced by another woman but by your own growth. She believed she'd be unforgettable. That your world would always orbit around her. But now, you've proven something she didn't see coming. That healing is stronger than heartbreak. And peace? More powerful than pain. What makes it all the more striking, and harder for her to grasp, is that your transformation wasn't loud. You didn't broadcast it. You didn't aim to spark jealousy or create second thoughts. You simply changed. Quietly, genuinely. Not to prove a point, but because you outgrew who you were trying to be for her. In a world obsessed with performance, your silence cuts through. That calm, unshaken self-respect doesn't beg to be noticed. It demands it. Without effort, without noise. And she feels it. Maybe not always with longing, but always with awareness. Because now you're not familiar. You're not predictable. You're no longer the man she thought she had figured out. You've become unfamiliar in the most powerful way. Unreachable. Unshaken. And that mystery, the one you now carry in your presence, draws her in. Not because she understands it, but because she doesn't. People are always drawn to what they can't explain. And she can't explain you anymore. She doesn't get how you let go so completely. How your detachment isn't bitter, it's clear. How you stopped performing for her applause and finally started living for yourself. And that's why she watches. Not because she plans to return, but because deep down she's trying to understand what she underestimated. She's trying to reconcile the version of you she thought she outgrew with the man you've become in her absence. Outside she still plays the part, laughs with friends, posts like nothing's changed. But inside, there's a shift. A quiet storm she can't fully ignore. A restlessness that wasn't there before. Something in her feels off, and no amount of comments or selfies can silence it. Because now there's a voice she didn't expect. One that whispers in the quiet. Was I wrong about him? Did I misread his heart? Did I assume he'd stay the same because it made me feel more in control? The thoughts don't hit her all at once. They drip in slowly like a leak she can't fix. Steady and relentless. She replays old conversations, not to reminisce but to re-examine. Your patience, your words, the moments she brushed off. They hit differently now, not because she finally sees you, but because you're no longer there to explain yourself. And that silence? That absence? It speaks volumes. More than you ever needed to say. That emotional safety net she once leaned on without a second thought, it's gone. And in its place is a quiet space she doesn't know how to navigate. She won't admit it, but it unsettles her. She was so sure when she walked away. So confident you'd never fully let go. She believed your attachment was permanent, that even if things fell apart, she'd always have a way back in. But now, that certainty is cracking. Because something about you has changed. Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a steady, undeniable one. You don't flinch when her name comes up. You don't linger in her shadow. You don't post to be seen or move in ways that seek her reaction. You're just different. And that difference forces her to see something she never truly acknowledged before. You were never weak. Your strength was simply still becoming. Now that it's here, now that you stand in it without apology, it's hard for her to process. You no longer need her to feel enough. You're not waiting for her text. You're not bending to fit into the mold she made for you. You're standing on your own. Grounded. Oh. And that sense of completeness? It makes her feel strangely untethered, like a balloon slowly floating out of reach. Because she remembers the man who tried so hard to be chosen. Who twisted himself into knots just to be seen, to be kept. And now, she's watching a man who chose himself instead. That shift in energy, it's quiet but it's powerful. And it's that shift that creates the storm inside her. The questions she can't silence. Every time someone mentions your name, every time she stumbles across an old photo, every time a memory sneaks back in, she feels it. The difference. The distance. She tells herself it's temporary. That you're pretending. That this version of you is a phase or a front. But deep down she knows better. She sees it in the calm of your presence. Hears it in the strength of your voice. You're not angry. You're not playing a role. You simply let go. Not with resentment. Not with a dramatic goodbye. But with quiet acceptance. You didn't slam the door behind you. You just stopped walking through it. And now she's left with something she never expected. A silence she can't decode. An absence she can't influence. A man who no longer belongs to her story. When someone's been the center of your emotional world, when they've gotten used to being the force that shapes your thoughts, choices, and moods, watching you shift your focus feels like a collapse of gravity. To her, it's like the light dimmed and she's no longer the sun you once revolved around. And that emptiness? That quiet ache she can't name? That's the storm. One she never thought she'd feel. One that belongs entirely to her. Because now, your peace has become your power. But peace like yours wasn't handed to you. It wasn't gifted in a moment of luck or offered by someone else's love. You earned it. Through nights where sleep felt impossible. Through moments where you had no one to lean on but yourself. Through raw honesty and painful self-checks. You built your calm with the same hands that once trembled from holding on too tightly. You built it with a heart that once begged for answers that never came. You used to rewind every conversation searching for where it fell apart. You used to carry the weight of what-ifs and maybe she'll comebacks. But instead of letting that pain define you, you let it shape you. Day by day you laid down a new foundation. One that didn't depend on being seen, chosen, or validated by her. This peace, it's unshakable. Because it's real. It's not a mask. It's not a performance. It didn't come from pretending you were fine. It came from facing everything you used to run from. From letting go of the need to chase people who only loved the version of you that broke to keep them comfortable. You walked through all of it. Maybe in silence. Maybe with no one noticing. But you didn't come out harder or colder. You came out deeper and stronger. Grounded in a way that no longer needs noise to feel important. Now you're not performing. You're not crafting an image to make her wonder. You're not trying to spark jealousy. You're just living, genuinely, freely, quietly. And that truth? It radiates without trying. People feel it. Especially the ones who once expected you to be emotionally available on demand. especially her. She notices. She doesn't have to say it, because your lack of reaction is the reaction. Your absence isn't just silence, it's clarity. The man she once knew would have bent, would have apologized, would have fought to fix what broke even at the expense of himself. But you're not that man anymore. You've chosen something far more sacred, your well-being. And now she feels the difference. Not in what you post, not in what you say, but in what you no longer offer. She feels it in your stillness, in your peace, in the calm you bring when your name comes up. No tension, no chasing, no need, just presence. And that presence speaks louder than any message ever could. She might try to convince herself it's all for show, that you're just putting on a front, still holding on, just better at hiding it. But deep down, she knows that kind of calm can't be faked. Because real peace isn't something people pretend. It's something they become. And you? You've become the definition of emotional freedom. You stopped pouring your energy into places that drained you. You no longer chase the feeling of being needed. Instead, you chose to be rooted, to be whole within yourself. That shift alone says everything. Your peace isn't just a quiet moment, it's your shield. It's the reason you no longer walk back into the pain you once called home. It's what protects you from being manipulated by the games you used to fall for. This peace reminds you of a truth you forgot for too long, that real love doesn't require you to suffer. That connection should never come at the cost of your soul. The way you live now proves something rare. You've outgrown the chaos. You've moved beyond needing to be chosen. You've discovered how to choose you, fully, unapologetically. And because of that, you've become unreachable to anyone still stuck in the cycles you've broken free from. You didn't evolve for praise. You didn't heal to impress. You changed because the alternative was slow destruction. And in choosing growth, in choosing stillness, in choosing peace, you did what most never find the strength to do. You let go without rage. You detached without drama. You healed without turning cold. And now she sees it. She might never say it out loud, but she feels the difference. You're not the man she walked away from. You're the man she never expected you'd become. And that's why it hits deeper. That's why your silence echoes. Because your peace, it lingers, it speaks, and it will never be forgotten. If this message hits home, if you're walking this path right now, healing, rising, growing, type unstoppable in the comments. Let's see who's making peace louder than pain. Kindly support this channel by liking and subscribing. Share it with some that needs to hear this. Your support helps us reach more men around the world who need to hear these truths. Men who are tired of pretending. Men who are ready to heal, grow, and evolve. Together, we're building something bigger than content. We're building a brotherhood where peace is louder than performance, and growth is the standard, not the exception. Let's keep showing up. Let's keep choosing self-respect. And above all, let's stay unstoppable.